This man is named Matthias. A genius in both physical and magical laws. Able to easily destroy exam venues with non-chanting magic. He is actually a reincarnated person. In his previous life, he held the title of the most powerful sage. Even magical dragons are mere fodder before him. Defeated in an instant by him. However, Matthias is not satisfied with the status quo. Because this world has a certain crest set up. The first crest that Matthias possesses. The weakest production specialization ability. The second is a power specialization crest for close combat. The third is a rapid-fire specialization crest for ranged combat. Therefore, he wants to obtain the fourth crest that combines the second and the third crests. To become a close combat mage. After dealing with most of the demons, he chooses to self-destruct on the spot. Reappearing countless years later, Matthias successfully obtained the fourth crest. At just 12 years old, he left the aristocratic domain to go learn in the capital. But the times have changed. The value of the crest in everyone's eyes has completely reversed. The fourth crest is called the mark of disqualification. Considered the weakest. Even the stable boys worry for him. Suddenly, the crest lines emerge. He feels a massive creature approaching him. Before he could finish his statement, a tiger-shaped demon stood in front of him. Just when the coachman thought he was about to die, the danger suddenly stopped. When he opened his eyes, he found that Matthias had defeated the demon in an instant. His face was filled with disbelief. After arriving at the royal capital, he first went to browse in a weapons specialty store. He also heard a young girl asking the owner to forge a magical sword, because her best friend accidentally broke her sword while protecting her. Matthias pays attention to both sides. He also found that the quality of the dagger in front of him was quite good. Only the enchantment level was very low. The young girl was eager to prepare for tomorrow's exam. Pleading, the store manager expressed his inability to help, because the enchantment process is very difficult. At this moment, Matthias made his appearance. He displayed the runes, and expresses that he can perform magic inheritance. For him, making a magic sword is very simple. In despair, the girl decides to make a final effort, letting the shopkeeper first forge the sword embryo, then attach the magic stone, and then wait in the rest room. The girl introduces herself as Alma. She came to the royal capital because she was fleeing from a marriage. She enthusiastically shook Matthias's hand, and introduced her best friend Luri, who is skilled in using the sword. Just finished saying. Luri arrived with her special effects. When Matthias saw such a cute girl, he became instantly restless. He introduced himself a lot. Then, the long sword was finished making. Matthias picked it up for a closer look, then fitted it with a magic stone, bestowing it with the abilities of toughness and cutting iron proportionally. With this, the original iron sword worth only 250. In an instant, it became the power of the three saints worth thousands. Everyone found it hard to believe how Matthias was able to enchant without chanting, and so quickly. Luri decided to give it a try. She tried to touch the table with her hand, but the moment the blade touched, the table was split in two. The three of them were stunned. They had never seen such a powerful enchantment effect. The shop owner thought Matthias was an opportunity for him to become rich. Immediately invite him to become an enchanter. Matthias flatly refuses. The next day he goes to the royal examination hall, pondering the enchanted greatsword in his hands. Suddenly Luri notices Matthias, and runs over to greet him. Then the three of them coincidentally meet again. Afterward, they enter the swordsmanship test. Luri, holding an enchanted longsword, faces the examiner. The opponent is taken aback immediately. Unexpectedly, I find myself defeated by a beginner wielding a level 10 weapon. Next up is the formidable Matthias taking the stage. But his opponent will be played by the Knight Commander. And the opponent also knows Matthias's father, Castor. Wanting to see just how strong the son he raised is, the moment Matthias saw him raise his sword, he had already found many flaws. He felt underestimated. Clearly it was intentional holding back. Therefore, the regiment leader immediately paid the price for his arrogance. Not even a minute had passed before the battle ended in direct defeat. The second round was a magic test. Matthias watched on the side with a headache. Unexpectedly, no one here could use chantless magic. Looking again at Luri's hand, the first sigil is considered the weakest. Now this era, it's called the strongest sigil of glory. Finally, it's his turn to take the stage. But the fourth sigil has a downside in terms of magic. Its range would be a lot shorter than the third sigil. Since the range isn't enough, then let's use the area to shroud. At the same time, let everyone witness Matthias's terrifying strength. Matthias was then selected with top honors. But because his earlier action was too eye-catching, the principal called him to the office. Faced with this situation, he was somewhat panicked. Could it be that he wanted to claim compensation for the field maintenance fees? But the principal didn't scold him for his recklessness. Instead, he praised his ability. Hope Matthias can assist the entire campus in the future. Because magic without chanting has been lost in this era. Even though Matthias' Second Academy has reported on reviving magic without chanting. But the Royal First Academy has the support of nobles. They often suppress proposed improvements with their strength and achievements. Therefore, not only have contemporary students not made progress, they have regressed instead. To gain a voice is to defeat them in the arena. Let everyone witness the power of non-incantatory magic. Hope Matthias could teach this technique to all students. Matthias was speechless. I clearly came here as a student. But since it has come to this point, Matthias had no choice but to accept the commission. So he gathered the students who had just been selected to try it out on the field. An instructor who has mastered some techniques takes the lead, even though he is of the second pattern, can also use the Chantless Fireball spell. Therefore, it proves that anyone present can learn. Luri's talent is not as high as others, unable to succeed in casting it until her magic power is exhausted. Seeing this, Matthias has a simple solution. As long as both parties touch hands, he can transmit assistance to her with the magic of mana tuning. Time jumps to 1 month later. About to compete against the First Academy. Luri is worried that this time the opponent will send out another magic prodigy. Matthias' crest appeared once again. Matthias guessed that what they were talking about was not a human, and the magical power was more than 10 times his own, thus concluding there's a demon in the opposite academy. Matthias was surprised as he entered the arena. Really didn't expect demons to exist in this era. At this moment, 3 arrogant individuals confronted Matthias. His own crest was also continuously revealing itself. Now it can be confirmed that the redhead in front of him is a demon. Following, the 65th apprentice competition began. Red hair, in self-preservation, has revealed his weaknesses. Because he used magic without chanting beforehand. The audience is buzzing with comments, seeing it all with their own eyes. Matthias decisively draws his sword to respond, the blade aiming for red hair's neck. Seeing the opponent dodge in an instant, Matthias initiates a taunt. The cause of the regression in magic also becomes somewhat clear. A demon disguised as a human sneaked into the academy, advocating the study of chant-based magic as the mainstream, to confuse their common sense and distort their perception of the crest. Thus, the demon could easily conquer the human world. With no way out, Red Hair was forced into a corner and immediately revealed his true identity. What appeared before everyone was a winged, horned demon. The battle reached its climax. Matthias' great iron sword, after who knows how long of use, was severely damaged. Though, fortunately, the red-haired was also felled by a single sword strike at Pink Kite Tower. Matthias killed the demon that had been lurking in the academy for a long time. Luri ran over excitedly, held him in her embrace, and also asked with concern about his physical condition. What a pair. Their relationship is just short of getting a marriage certificate, because of the great achievement made by Matthias. For centuries, there had never been a human who took down a demon alone. The king summoned him and praised his abilities, stating he could confer a fiefdom to Matthias for him to govern. He himself was extremely reluctant, really having no time to manage trivial and complicated matters. And the king also considered that if rewards were given, it might expose the matter of demons mingling among the crowd. So he decided to reward a magic sword with double enchantments, explaining that it was acquired from the sword shop owner. Matthias was not at all interested, because that item was originally made for the owner by himself, and double enchantments are really crappy. Therefore, boldly explained to the king, hoping to gain the right to use all resources of the labyrinth. It does not mean to monopolize, Matthias thought. If he could get those buried ores, then making powerful weapons wouldn't be a problem. The king agreed immediately upon hearing it was this minor issue. The matter of reward came to an end. The other party explained that 4 magic favorites had suddenly disappeared within the country, including the previous generation of Grandmaster Wizardheart. Matthias actually knew very well that all the magic darlings were demons, and hid themselves because their identities were exposed. Matthias was reporting bad news, that demons might gather their companions to take down the country, at the latest within 3 months. Seeing the king with a worried expression, Matthias continued, as long as we prepare a permanent, gigantic barrier around the country to resist. Its name is Divine Magic Artifact. If the faculty and students of the Second Academy lend a hand, it would only take a month to complete. At this moment, the king is at his wit's end, thus entrusting the heavy responsibility of safeguarding the nation entirely to Matthias. Afterward, he went to the National Material Repository to select usable resources, except for certain ores not found here. But unexpectedly, he found the experimental magic sword that he had created in his previous life. Matthias took the sword not to slay monsters, but to use its essence as the core of a barrier. Then, he selects a pendant, which, of course, is also an artifact he made. Its function is to double the experience points gained making it very suitable for leveling up at the moment. After making his selection, he then checks on the students' progress at the training ground. It can be said that now everyone has learned to use magic without chanting. At this time, two girls come to meet again. Hearing that Matthias is going to the labyrinth alone to collect materials. Very worried. Matthias thought forming a team would be more efficient. It would also be a good opportunity to help two people level up. So he made the invitation to join the team as if asking them on a date. The girls were very happy, but even more afraid of holding the team back, because they were not very proficient with weapons, which made them all the more insecure. But for Matthias, it was child's play. First, Matthias taught Alma how to use the bow and arrow correctly. Simply attach magic to the arrows to achieve devastating power. This changed her worldview. So she agreed to team up with Matthias for adventures. Luri was also very interested in this. She eagerly asked Matthias to teach her enchanting skills. Thus, through this little trick, the three of them successfully formed a team. Afterward, they came to the beginner's labyrinth beneath the academy. To help Alma better master magic enhancement, Matthias captured a monster that looked like a conch for her to practice on. According to Matthias's instructions, Alma successfully attached magical power to her arrows. Now she can easily penetrate hard shells that ordinary weapons can't break through. Matthias also taught her how, after shooting, to use magical threads to control the arrows, to achieve 100 shots and 100 hits effect. From then on, attack became a pursuit of the mind. Matthias told her to go find more monsters. Practice piercing through multiple targets at once. Next is Luri's turn to learn weapon creation and enchanting. However, considering her current level limitations, she can only make practice weapons. They arrived in front of a wall that looked exactly the same as the surroundings. Matthias explains that the required sword materials are here. So he magically dismantles the building and picks up a clump of earth to explain to Luri that it contains the needed metal. But it must be refined to be obtained. Since Luri has a talent in this area, she successfully refined iron and mithril for the first time. Next, she can proceed to the second and third stages, making swords and enchanting. Meanwhile, Alma was not just training. It was more like she was playing. She would occasionally fire 3 shots in a row without missing a single arrow. When she met up with Matthias, her best friend was actually able to make swords by hand and enchant them, even splitting a wall with a single strike. The warm-up session comes to an end. To test the fruits of their training, next they will enter the 10th level. Upon arrival at the scene, suddenly, a large group of snail monsters attack. Luri rushes to the forefront to showcase her fire magic. Matthias watches the progress of the two girls. He reveals a satisfied smile. At this moment, a high-level monster appears, with a single close. It can block arrows. Luri found a stone to make an arrow, while Alma was holding an enchanted weapon. Instantly killed the shell. However, the real support was not Luri, but Matthias, who was watching the battle. From the moment they entered the maze, his pendant began to take effect, not only enabling the three to share the experiences of the night, but also increasing the amount of experience. At this moment, an elite monster finally appeared. Its body shape and appearance have changed from seafood to a mammal. Matthias tries not to take action. To cultivate teamwork and understanding, Matthias steps forward to praise their tactics, considering that it is already very late, and monsters may no longer respawn nearby. He teaches them to infuse magic into the magic stones dropped by the monsters. This way, a small barrier can be created, allowing them to camp on the spot. After arranging accommodation for the two girls, Matthias said he wanted to head for the 25th floor to conquer it. The girls were shocked. They told him that under the protection of the magic god Gaius, the current record was set by a team consisting of 30 people, which only reached the 23rd floor. Matthias was surprised. They actually knew his name from a previous life. Matthias bypassed a large group of weak monsters and jumped directly to the 25th floor. Only here can they find the orichalcum needed to create the barrier. Suddenly, a pit behind them emits a glow. He has a premonition that it's the boss guarding the gate. It's also the biggest trouble when teams group up. Although his current strength is much weaker compared to his past life, but relying on the experience accumulated, Matthias directly jumps into the pit for a surprise attack. As he lands, with one sword, he instantly defeats the demon. But there are still more minions in front of him. Standing before him is the Arch Orochi he had encountered countless times before. But considering the current situation, taking a hit from the opponent would most likely result in death. Plus, the venom enhancement makes it even less touchable. Yet even so, for Matthias, this isn't a problem at all. First, he deliberately lets the Orochi swallow him. Then, using magic, he avoids the scales to deal substantial damage. Matthias goes so far as to imbue his sword with a triple attribute. Relying on the ability to cut through iron and resist poison, can lightly cause damage to the outer skin. Finding this efficiency too slow, he takes out the magic stone he just obtained and crushes it in the air. by absorbing the high concentration of magical power and magical particles in the air, then concentrating all of it on the blade. Demons hiding deeper also heard the noise. They could never have imagined such a powerful fluctuation of magic power was man-made. In the end, Matthias came back to report, carrying the head of the giant snake. And the girls were almost frightened to death by this situation. After returning, Matthias uses a long-lost storage magic in front of everyone, releasing the colossal head of the ark. The front desk sister gets scared into a sharp scream, seeing such a spectacle for the first time. Before she could react, he took out a massive fallen magic stone. Judged by its size, it's equivalent to a national treasure. But Matthias indicates that it is far from enough to create a barrier, planning to go back to the labyrinth to farm more another day. In the end, they received payment of 750 gold coins, split evenly. Each person got 250. On the way back, Matthias sensed a huge magical power above. Then he told the girls that 2 demons were heading to the campus. And in the sky, the bald one and the white-haired one came seeking revenge on Matthias, wanting to see how much strength he truly has, how he could have killed their companion. Matthias discussed with the girls. The strongest white-haired one will deal with it themselves. Leave the bald one to them. After some encouragement, Luri and Alma agreed to fight. With the current strength, taking on the bald one is not a problem. The white-haired one plans to use magic in the air to create chaos. The next second, Matthias soars swiftly right before him. Through experimentation comes the conclusion. Indeed, without going all out, it's impossible to instantly defeat the demon. The opponent also realizes he is the one who killed the red-haired person. White-haired raised his hand, ready to send him off with a blast of flame magic. Matthias dodged calmly, using half of his magical power to return the fire exactly as it came. White-haired thought it was just a simple magic rebound, and he liked their condescending attitude towards humans. It turns out that the fireball was a control sphere freely manipulated around him, as long as it doesn't encounter large-scale magic. All attacks other than physical ones could be controlled. Matthias, following the plan, turned his head and ran. Alma took the opportunity to shoot enchanted arrows from the rooftop. The bald man trembled all over after being hit. The magical power within him was in chaos. He, who was not strong to begin with, suddenly became weakened. Just the 2 girls alone were already enough to handle him. Seeing the demon split into 2 paths, Bai Mao planned to use high-level magic for a quick battle. The control orb couldn't exert its effect, and disappeared one after another. But she herself possessed countless skills, as long as the structural formation of the spell hasn't taken shape yet. Finding the weak spot will allow one to shatter it. Matthias doesn't give him a chance to pause. He goes straight for the attack, seeing that he was utterly outmatched. The white-haired one simply raised his height, preparing to retreat. Matthias once again releases a control sphere, knocking down the white-haired one in the process. He delivers another strike. The white-haired one is infuriated, swearing profusely. When Matthias delivered the final blow head-on, the opponent showed a smug smile, because during the fight, he had already used stealth magic to prepare in advance, just waiting for him to fall into the trap. Yet this attack still missed. Experiencing the terrifying aspect of Matthias, the white-haired opponent no longer had the heart to fight, and was using flying magic to escape. Suddenly, fire engulfed him. He is currently in Matthias's blocking sphere, can interfere with the flow of magic within the body. It's like using a certain electrical appliance, and it short-circuits instantly. Due to the damage inflicted, the white hair falls directly to the ground. Before dying, he prepares to self-destruct and summon a large number of demons. Didn't expect Matthias to intercept it. After exhausting all his moves, white hair was successfully subjugated by Matthias. Now there's only a big bald head left. Alma has been continuously depleting from just now until now. No matter how much they chase, they can't catch them. It really infuriates the other person. Matthias thinks it's time to end the dispute. So Matthias reminds him that the white-haired one is already dead. He uses the remaining magic to condense light from his hands to scare him. This is the death light that can kill a demon in one hit. The opponent does not want to die like this, and starts running away desperately. Alma fires arrows in the direction of the escape as instructed. With an acceleration enchantment, the attack is faster than before. Catch up with the target directly. In this, 2 demons were successfully subdued. Matthias's status in the hearts of the people has become uncontrollable. Matthias is very troubled, being surrounded by them incessantly. Retreating is difficult, but fortunately, he can use flying magic. So, he took his sisters in his arms and soared into the sky with them. This move can be said to be the ceiling of flirting with girls, a strategy for taking down 2. The reward session is carried out again the day after. Whether it's national treasures or things in the warehouse, Matthias is not interested. Simply let the king grant himself more mazes. Suddenly, the rune in his hand revealed itself. Matthias directly stood up. calling out the demon hiding in the dark, and in some unknown place. Indeed, a demon was monitoring every move of the palace. Unexpectedly received no reply. Didn't want to waste words myself. Used the skill to dispel magic, causing backlash to the opponent. Heard a scream. Both the principal and the king were shocked. That was the voice of the former magic troop leader, Erhard. Matthias explained. It was a type of surveillance magic, sensing the target through magic. 348 kilometers west of the palace, and another 4,425 kilometers to the north. The king remembers. Remembers there was a village destroyed by a demon. Now, its exact location is roughly understood. Matthias will certainly not miss this opportunity to greet them, considering the long journey and lack of magic power to use teleportation. He plans to find a means of transportation in the valley. Upon arrival at the scene, the girls were all astonished. Where is the tool? This is clearly a dragon, and this dark dragon is named Iris, who had a one-on-one fight with Matthias thousands of years ago, but gave up halfway, and chose not to kill him. They can be considered old acquaintances. Iris, not knowing Matthias's identity, decided to show him some true colors, but Matthias shattered the magical construct in an instant. Iris, upon witnessing his formidable performance, finally recognized his identity, apologizing profusely in her lowly voice while kneeling before him. Matthias then explained the situation ahead, pointing out that they needed Iris as a means of transportation. Iris was in a predicament, for after Matthias's reincarnation, many nations detonated their magic fusion reactors, leading to the decline of civilization. Still injured her wings. She asked Matthias if he could heal her. Matthias replied that he couldn't completely heal her, but at least he could ensure she could take off successfully. Eventually, the three of them took the dark dragon to their destination. Iris was about to use super acceleration, but was stopped in time by Matthias. Because his body now is not Gaius's, he could only advance at 1,500th of the acceleration. Matthias arrived at the location of the demon. Unhesitatingly, he launched his attack. The small soldier was unable to react in time, and was chopped in half by him. Through the analysis of magical power concentration, he discovered there were still two magical creatures left. One of them was much stronger than any he had seen before. Matthias was full of confidence in his abundant magical power. At that moment, Iris shouted for them to get out of the way, as a dragon and two people suddenly descended from the sky. Fortunately, there were no accidents, just a bit of dizziness. Before entering the room, Matthias communicates with the girl using telekinetic magic, assigning the main output location to them. However, after they enter the room, they find no one. Matthias turns around and tells them, the enemy has used concealment magic, which can reduce the magical power of the entire body, making it undetectable to ordinary people. Conversely, if a place does not exist, that's where the enemy is. Matthias quietly used magic to dispel Erhard's invisibility, but Erhard was none the wiser, thinking Alma's bow and arrows were just for show. However, the arrow did not penetrate the enemy's defense, which raised questions from the other side. They began to doubt Matthias's true identity. Before Matthias could finish introducing himself, Erhard thought he was an imposter. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago. So he rushed forward, intending to deal with Matthias. In several rounds of combat, Matthias only defended and did not attack, while Luri and others shot arrows from the side, sneak attacking Erhard's back, facing attacks that were neither painful nor itchy. The enemy didn't take it seriously, only focusing on chasing the unreachable Matthias, until his back was pierced by arrows like a hedgehog. Only then did Erhard realize that his attack speed had significantly slowed down, because Matthias added magic poison to Luri's arrow. Even at the brink of death, the opponent still didn't acknowledge Matthias's true identity. Then they used Berserk. Both body size and attack power increased several times over what they were before, but clearly knew that they would eventually perish. Matthias immediately had the girls withdraw. However, Erhard almost caught the two of them, but then he suddenly disappeared. It turned out this was Matthias's plan. All he saw were enemies, using illusion magic to create phantasms, mixed with a high concentration of magical poison. In the end, Alma struck down with a single arrow, easily defeating the terrifying demon. Only the last one remained. Matthias decided to handle it personally. He told the girls to return to Iris's side and wait in the air. Matthias took out 3 magical cores amidst the dense fog. By destroying all the crystals, he released a high concentration of magical power. Its effect was not only to attract a large number of magical creatures, still capable of letting a fog demon reveal itself. Yellow Hair praises him for being scarier than a monster, by the way, reminding himself that he and Erhard are on different levels. Matthias prepares to strengthen his entire body. Yellow Hair teleports directly in front of him in an instant. He himself strikes an attack. Indeed, not just for show. even though the situation clearly seems to be at a disadvantage. In fact, this is also within Matthias's plan. Suddenly, the arm that flew out reattaches to the body. Matthias had already applied a healing spell to his hand early on. Has been analyzing all the opponent's skills since a moment ago. It's not so much that the arm was meant to be chopped off deliberately. The blonde-haired guy suddenly panicked. He got careless and even his hand was chopped. Thinking he was poisoned, the opponent unleashed an advanced version of Berserk. Magical power overload. Not only is the chance of death extremely low, but it's even more powerful. Matthias certainly won't let him succeed, since his magic had already been thoroughly analyzed before. It was possible to use corresponding skills to neutralize it. The blonde confidently smirked and brought out his life-saving skill, once again turning his body into mist, making it impossible to cut him. But Matthias was prepared, casually rendering his skill ineffective. At this moment, magical energy from the surroundings rushed into the blonde's body. Matthias stated that what remained in his body was not poison, but something that would continuously absorb magical power and burst his body, to make him die even faster. Matthias took out the magic core and detonated it in front of him. Then the blonde was blown up without a trace left. Afterward, what appeared in front of Matthias was a dragon vein pillar. Suddenly Luri pounced towards him, concernedly asking about his physical condition, even bringing special effects. If it weren't for Alma being present, the progress between the two might have been much more than this. Matthias explained. This dragon vein pillar can circulate the Earth's magical power, creating swarms of magical creatures. But it can only summon 5,000 level 10 monsters at most. Plus, if they are led by a demon, they can collectively attack the royal capital. Matthias assures them not to worry, because the explosion that generates the monsters will be 10 kilometers away from the royal capital. By then, if all the students cooperate, they should still be able to handle it easily. On the way back, Matthias decided to let Iris stay at the academy. This way she could obtain a permanent means of transportation. Hence, Iris somehow used magic to transform into a human form, and Matthias didn't feel embarrassed at all. She was merely a Lolita without any clothes. Upon reaching the academy, Matthias had the principal appraise Erhardt's leg. After confirming there were no issues, he then requested for Iris to be admitted to the school. The other party said it was okay, but she had to pass the entrance examination. Matthias also has a request to be an observer, because Iris is doing this for the first time, not familiar with controlling magic power. If it goes out of control, I'm afraid the school will be leveled. Iris says that wearing clothes feels unfamiliar, but upon hearing Matthias say it's necessary, had no choice but to obediently comply, adding runes to his own hand, even though they are fake. But at least it's better at concealing identity. The first written test took place the next day. Iris has no understanding of stationery at all, so she scored a 0. The second test was swordsmanship, and she faced the previous captain of the knights again. Matthias immediately got worried, because the captain was really too weak. He was definitely in danger. Iris inadvertently raised her hand. The sword flew into the air. She ran over in a fluster to pick it up. Wait a moment for the commander. But the opponent wasn't playing house. However, the sword in hand was actually caught by the loli, and even the whole person was thrown into the air. Seeing the situation was bad, Matthias quickly cast a shield on him. The most miserable sparring partner in history was born, and Iris was not found to be abnormal. Passed smoothly. In the end, it's the magic test. Looking at those targets, almost gave myself myopia. Then reduced the original force, planning to knock them all down with tiny light waves. But it was just as Matthias expected. The magic was out of control. People who didn't know thought she added a spinning spell. Iris apologized, getting ready for another try. No matter how they fought, it was useless. The little loli was ready to use the method taught by Matthias. Thus, after the explosion, the entire training ground was leveled. The 4 of them were saved by being inside a protective shield. The target was destroyed successfully. The principal had no choice. Since she met the conditions, he had to announce the pass. But the huge repair costs would fall on Matthias. The principal called for a large-scale mining by the students. Due to the rarity of glory patterns in the school, it results in the slow progress. Mainly because of the discord with the first academy, no help was received. The next day, he specifically invited the principal of the other school here. The old man put on an imposing look, clearly looking down on the second academy for its scarcity of glory patterns. Upon knowing the situation, the other party still chose to refuse, believing they were not worthy of the noble assistance of the first academy. Continuing to cause trouble like this is not the solution. Matthias proposes that students from both schools participate in a competition. The old man is at least not foolish enough to be an idiot. He demands that his companions, including Matthias, are not allowed to participate. He decisively accepts the conditions. The rest is to make him keep quiet obediently. The day after tomorrow, the competition will proceed with great intensity. The number of people sent by the First Academy is not small. But fortunately, there are no demons involved. This way, Iris doesn't have to take the field. The old man arrogantly provokes before the match, thinking the glory pattern on the field signifies the elite. Until the people from the Second Academy appear. Instantly his jaw drops in shock. Just 5 people, that's all. Who is this looking down upon? Just a second ago. The old man was still boasting shamelessly. But as soon as the match starts, their students all turn out to be chanters of magic. The result was instantaneously decided by 5 fully automatic students. All students were beaten without any power to fight back. There was absolutely no point of interest in this match. Yet Matthias felt that 5 people still somewhat overestimated him. The old man suddenly changed his stance, stating his refusal to accept the result, requesting that this seemingly frail Lolita to take the field. Iris was full of confusion. Matthias then handed her the sword he had smoothly taken from the principal. The old man, unconvinced, demanded a further check. Only upon seeing the actual broken sword was she willing to hand it over. Choosing someone to blame, she specifically picked her. Isn't this just asking for trouble? Seeing the other party becoming furious out of embarrassment, the principal began to use the old man's words, indicating that the king had already ordered the abandonment of chant magic. Why then is the First Academy still using it? Despite the situation, the old man still adhered to his principles. However, the king had been lurking from the start. Since the old man did not comply with the royal decree, the king immediately ordered his arrest for treason and threw him into the dungeon. As a result, the 2 academies temporarily merged to receive equal education and mind together. Those fragmented materials were handed over to other students. Matthias' primary task was to collect magic stones large enough in size. Obtaining one with a diameter of 60 centimeters was not easy. However, if that was not possible, they would have no choice but to kill a dragon and take its stone. Matthias explained that inside Iris, there truly was a magic stone larger than 80 centimeters. But such a cute dragon, of course, would not strike down. So now they can use other magic stones to summon even more powerful creatures. The girls start their action to defeat monsters, to gather materials and to level up. Only Iris's brute force is still not completely under control. Her devastating attacks leave the small monsters somewhat speechless, and sometimes her weapon would slip from her grasp. If one is not clever and quick to react, they would surely meet their demise. The acquisition of magic stones is pretty much complete. Luri, following the instructions, constructs a magic circle on the ground. Seeing that she's not very skilled at it, Matthias kindly comes over to help. This provokes Alma to tease them. Observing their subtle interactions, she couldn't help but start to joke. What's left is the infusion of magic power. Of course, the one with the most magic at the scene is entrusted to Iris. She follows the requirement, and in a way she thinks is appropriate, she slowly infuses it. But obviously, the vibe was off. If Matthias hadn't loudly intervened, the magic stone might have burst. But his intervention came a bit too late, considering that it might attract even more formidable monsters. He immediately had the girls retreat quickly. Iris explained that it wasn't her fault, because in her past life, Gaius had taught her to unleash magical power that could destroy 3 mountains. Suddenly, a dragon appeared. After seeing the true face of the dragon, he became even happier. Judging from its size, the magic stone definitely won't be less than 60 centimeters. Then he had Iris go to the front lines. Because it's a human body, she is still not quite used to it. Otherwise, the dark dragon would not have been easily slapped back. Matthias plans to use a trump card to persuade Iris to convince the other party. It's just that the content to be conveyed is hard to utter. Turns out this was a form of mockery. Iris gradually became a tool, being used as bait to attract firepower. Luri hurriedly applied magic to the arrows, then handed them to Alma. They tried attacking using the method they had initially used against the demon, but the opponent's resistance was too high. The effect was minimal. Matthias could only ask them to delay as much as possible, while he went to set up a magic circle to prevent the position from being damaged. Iris received the order and immediately went there. A punch takes down the dragon. Without using her true form, she still managed to overpower the other side. The girls were all stunned, forgetting their own primary duties. After 2 rounds, Iris began to swell. Seeing the red dragon's claws coming down again, she chose to directly confront it head-on. Matthias kindly reminded from the sidelines, but the reaction is too slow. She was sent flying 100 meters away onto the land. Can only blame the ground for being too fragile. Otherwise, there would be no need to dodge at all. All the preparations are already in place. Matthias ordered the girls to retreat first, then had the lowly attract the dragon's firepower. Iris made an international hand gesture, added with a taunt. The opponent fell for it indeed. The time left for Iris was not enough for her to escape. Matthias worried that she would be injured under the massive scale of damage. So, he applied a protective shield around her, and took the attack head-on himself. After the power ceased, the dragon was blown into ashes and materials, and Matthias was naturally unharmed, just blown away to 100 meters distance. This practice and investigation session essentially came to an end. Under the invitation of Matthias, Iris officially becomes a member of the team. Next, they arrive at the campus training ground to conduct tacit understanding training. First is to destroy the field, allowing Iris to adapt to using a human body to dodge attacks. It can only be said that this method seems somewhat unfair. No matter how you shoot, if it isn't intercepted, it's bound to hit the shell. As for Luri, Matthias also wouldn't let her go. Now he wants to create more advanced weapons and enchant them, he said joyfully. The loot from just having slain a dragon was enough to fill the ground. He requested to make 4 weapons, each with an 8-fold enhancement. Luri rebutted, how could such a thing be possible? Matthias explained that it's possible by layering each material on top of the other, combining materials that each have an enchantment. It would be successful. So, after putting it into practice, a great sword is successfully created. On this side, Iris still can't dodge Alma's arrows. Matthias praises that their movements are becoming more agile, gathering the 3 to examine the practicality of the weapons. Luri is the first to go up. To her, the giant rock is as easy to slice as a melon. It is chopped into pieces effortlessly and instantly. Alma receives a brand new bow and arrow. This shot is even more terrifying than Luri's. If control could be added, that easily outperforms most demons. The third is a gun for Iris. Lastly, Matthias slowly draws his own sword. As for the trial's target, it's to defend the 3 girls at the same time. Seeing that he has taught them everything he could, what's left is to repel the demons. After that, he has no reason to stay. Creating the barrier requires a lot of time from Matthias. During this time, it's easy for demons to exploit vulnerabilities. During this period, other students are needed to guard. Girls detected an abnormal reaction from the magic device. Matthias guessed right away. They might be using some kind of displacement magic. But he himself couldn't leave, so he could only leave it to the 2 of them to resolve. The girls thought he was joking, but still mustered the courage to follow the leading student. Before leaving, Matthias also encouraged her, believing Luri could with herself. Strength crafted arrows to counter demons. Thus for the first time without Matthias' guidance, creation was completed, and the power was stronger than before. The girl next to them was astounded. The growth of these 2 was too evident. Suddenly, the gap in the sky became too large. Alma quickly drew her bow and knocked an arrow. The first one to emerge was an unlucky soul easily pierced through the heart. Dead on the spot. Mission accomplished. The sky's teleportation magic consequently disappeared. The 2 were just celebrating. Suddenly, they sensed an even greater magical power. Its source was precisely the royal capital. Didn't give the girl any time to catch her breath. Immediately heading back, the girl reported the recent findings to Matthias. He had anticipated this and was not panicked, explaining that the demon might be sacrificing its skin to perform long-distance teleportation. That is to say, they will face more enemies next. It still takes some time to complete the barrier. The girls go to the center of the campus to defend according to the assignment. It wasn't clear until the 2 of them came before the principal. Matthias had actually made foolproof preparations, in case Luri failed. So, he prepared a box of backup magic stones. At this moment, a teleportation portal appeared in the sky as expected. Different level demons ran out from inside. First, they mocked the people at their feet for being too weak. Then they launched high-level magic, planning to send them all on their way. But the dust was especially thick. The attack was successfully blocked by defensive magic. The headmaster ordered the commanding students to counterattack. However, the distance was not enough. Alma made up for it with enchanted arrows. But this attack power is almost like a toy in front of him. Luri has not completed the final enchanted weapon from the beginning until now. The students strenuously resisted the damage to buy her more time. But at times like these, things always go awry. The entire box of magic stones was used up until only 1 was left. Watching them become gradually exhausted, Demon became increasingly arrogant. Luri did not want to lose this battle because of herself. With Alma's and her own encouragement, the top-notch enchanted arrows were finally completed. Alma took over the remaining hope. Success or failure depended on this one strike. Demon villains mostly die without looking back a few more times. Others think there is no need to continue the struggle. But they didn't realize it's just the beginning. An even more terrifying demon appears above, using the same kind of magic. It exhausts all the magic power of the front row. The entire demon army gathers. The villains all feel sure of winning. But ultimately, they can't avoid the protagonist's favorite surprise attacks from behind. Matthias completes the barrier and arrives at the scene immediately. All the demons were surrounded by Matthias, none could escape. Matthias gave them two choices. But no matter which, they would die. The demons, seeing his arrogance, were completely unaware of how severe the consequences would be. So they charged at him all at once. The result was Matthias without a single scratch. He even managed to show off in front of everyone. Matthias acknowledged his accomplishment, and had to thank Luri for creating the dragon-slaying sword. Then returned to the dugout barrier pit. Now only one step away from complete success. The moment the magic stone is placed on it, the entire crystal changes its color. A beam of light shoots straight into the sky. The entire royal capital is enveloped in a protective shield. Matthias reminds that the problem is not solved, because what they killed was a demon. There are still monsters that have not been eliminated, and the impact of the fight. The scale at which monsters are produced will be even larger. For Matthias, that's not a problem at all. Groups of monsters are merely a bunch of materials in his eyes. Students stand at the edge of the protective barrier to use long-range attacks. In terms of power, comparable to automatic turrets. The rank and file are wiped out with barely any remaining. A second wave of stronger monsters begins to advance. Matthias directly teleports to the battlefield. Next, it's time to level up with the girl again. Relying on Iris's stubbornness, they act recklessly, while intending to focus on facing powerful enemies. Suddenly, a terrifying aura emerges from behind, sucking in demons as if they were cannon fodder. Matthias sees the intention to fuse all demons into a single big boss. It's the first meeting, but it feels more convenient this way. When the time comes, there's no need to run around. Then handing a magic circle to Luri, letting her synthesize a magic stone, modifying the materials produced during the enemy's formation process. As long as enough is absorbed, the body can produce the desired fixed materials. Thus, the investment in a defensive battle readiness is complete. After the flashes of lightning and peals of thunder, a giant beast appeared in front of the four. Iris and I are responsible for the front line. As the body has adapted to the combat style of the disqualified pattern, it allows attacks to activate a power-saving mode, making endurance last longer. With one strike of my sword, the eye is punctured. Let it lose its composure. The lethality is quite high. But the enemy possesses supernatural regenerative abilities. Seeing this situation, Matthias immediately imbues his weapon with all enhancements. Aerial slashes directly cause massive damage to the demon, then completely envelopes it with a constructed encirclement, reflecting damage back at it. With the enhancement of a flawed pattern, as long as the mana isn't exhausted, can sustain until his death. Except Iris. Everyone else was confused. Doubted the tasks completed by humans. The creation and use of barriers were almost ineffective. All the battles were Matthias performing solos. After Matthias resolved all the troubles, he found an excuse to investigate the labyrinth outside, and submitted an application to withdraw from school. However, the principal rejected his request, demanding he maintain his current status, and name it the Special Honors Student, so as to help each other. To some extent, the school still relies on the reputation of Matthias to maintain. The girls, of course, would not leave him, so they too became honors students. Matthias took the girls away from the academy to investigate the dragon veins. Luri suggested going to the Melkia labyrinth, because it's relatively safer, and above it, there's a city. Matthias was shocked to hear this, because in his past life, he had never heard of anyone establishing a home in the maze. To save on the journey, Matthias decided to lead them through the Rizvia forest. The girls were very scared, because there were many highly intelligent monsters there. However, Matthias was full of interest in this. Just entering the forest, Iris began to feel hungry. Alma originally wanted her to take out the food prepared in advance. But as a dragon, of course, she wanted to eat something freshly killed. So she charged directly into the depths, ready to kill anything she encountered. Matthias could feel many magical reactions around, but clearly, there was a suppressing force that made them hard to detect. The girls felt uneasy, worried that Matthias would bring back some strange things again. As a result, a baboon appeared in front of them. Two girls were so scared that they cried out in disgust. They believed it was the legendary highly intelligent creature. Hearing they were unwilling to eat, Matthias had no choice but to go and kill a pig and bring it back. Iris was moved and drooled. Luri improvised, extracted iron from the soil to make pots and utensils. Alma was in charge of picking wild vegetables to make a soup, but they inadvertently ended up creating a biological weapon. Originally set to cook rice, I nearly lost my life. After dinner, they enjoyed a bowl of wild vegetable soup. Looking at the greenish appearance, only Iris could accept it. Then she picked up the bowl without hesitation. The taste turned out to be unimaginable bad. Matthias decided to leave at once, to reach Melkia before the sun sets. Upon arrival at the destination, this place is more like a small town, and not the city. Adventurers and beggars both hide in the narrow alleys. The light on Matthias's head flickers on and off. Logically, the magic lamp should be powered by a magic stone. But obviously, the magic stone here is connected to the dragon veins in the maze. A young man selling fruit reminds them to leave quickly, explaining that 10 people have already lost their lives this year because of this. Lurie questions them. Why install such dangerous things in a rush? The young man replies that it was the new lord's order. Magic stones originally used for export are now restricted in use. The young man further explained. On the 10th floor of the labyrinth, a powerful demon appeared. The lord ordered all capable adventurers to subjugate it. On the way, Matthias lamented what a foolish lord he was, to let adventurers go on such a quest so lightly. It's practically sending people to their doom. Then, he checked the guild's bulletin by the roadside. It solemnly stated, one must have a permit issued by the guild to enter the labyrinth. Just enter the guild. Those old, weak, sick, and disabled all had fierce looks. The receptionist, upon knowing their purpose, even more discouraged them. It was declared that a permit would later be issued by the lord. To stay in the town, one must take on his special commission, and the so-called tasks involve subjugating demons or exploring labyrinths. Matthias and the girls resolutely decided to participate. Adventurers, out of kindness, tried to dissuade them. But Matthias is exceptionally talented. He turned back and had the receptionist apply for 4 copies directly. At this moment, an elder sister suddenly brought bad news. Many people were severely injured by monsters. But now, those who can heal have all gone to the labyrinth. When there was no solution, Matthias raised his hand, willing to help them. Arriving at the scene, he was instantly shocked by what he saw. The injuries, with fingers slashed, were incomparable. The elder sister explained that there were originally many healers, but the lord thought they were too expensive and had them all dismissed. She had already guessed that the lord intentionally wanted to harm them, having promised to save everyone absolutely. After a round of testing, the severity of each patient is marked. The most dangerous ones are all taken care of by Matthias. The rest are left to the girls. Just as he was about to start, an old man called out to him. Looking at the ignorant person, Matthias responded a few words before applying treatment. The patient's injuries were restored to their original state in a few seconds. Seeing this, the old man immediately shut his mouth, understanding that the command should be transferred to his hands. So they helped as assistants in treating together. After relentless effort, everyone finally got out of danger. Matthias became famous in the city for his contribution to the battle. The elders all thought he was a healing hero stronger than the therapists. Matthias asked him why the previously competent lord died inexplicably, and the elder expressed that he was not clear either. Aside from being told of a sudden death in the middle of the night, I know nothing else. Grasping the entirety of the strange events, I'm beginning to see some clues. The former lord's death is almost certainly connected to a demon, and it's highly likely that the current lord is a demon as well. The remaining answers can be obtained by meeting face to face. Matthias decides to write a letter to the principal to inform him of the current situation. In order to prevent the content from being stolen, he plans to install a secret compartment at the bottom of the box and attach illusion magic. By doing so, those people will think it's an unimportant letter inside. As for why Matthias didn't deliver it personally, actually, he wanted to use the newly acquired license to explore the labyrinth. When sleeping at night, the atmosphere in the room where several people stayed was quite harmonious. Only 2 people were tense and couldn't sleep. It was very embarrassing to be in the same room with boys for the first time, and Matthias's situation was the same. Even without those 2 light bulbs, it's hard to do good. Iris suddenly spoke in her sleep, startling the 2 of them. Neither could sleep well that night, and Lurie even developed dark circles under his eyes. Then they arrived at the entrance to the maze. Looking at the already rusted iron gate, it's really too perfunctory, as if taking the lives of residents lightly. After a few complaints, the 4 entered together. He skipped the fighting process altogether. The receptionist was shocked by the head they brought. They claimed it was yesterday's strongest monster, wondering how a few girls could actually defeat it. But the reward had to be delayed for a few days, saying they had to report to the lord for permission first. Matthias accepted with a smile, while she turned her head back to write a letter. He activated his stand-in to spy, because he acted bravely yesterday. Matthias was mistakenly taken for a therapist. On the way to having a meal at a hotel, Matthias noticed someone watching from behind. Indeed, he had attracted the mastermind. Matthias took a different route on purpose with the girls, using a concealment spell to make them lose direction, then silently appearing to identify if they were bad people, to avoid hurting the innocent. The criminals, watching them asking for directions, were thrown off their game for a moment, based on the information written by the Union last time. Hence, they seized Matthias, the therapist, as a hostage. It's just that the girls almost burst out laughing when they saw this scene. At that moment, Matthias told Iris to knock them out, before they could react. Almost all the thugs were lying on the ground. Matthias used a detection spell on each of them. Just let them go back and we'll be able to know the location. The next day, a letter from the king was received. Then arrived at the agreed location to meet with the contact. The person who looks like Aaron is named Elk. This meeting here is also to avoid letting the Lord find out. The king has already ordered the capture of Lord Dovio. Of course, it is also hoped that Matthias can participate in the action. Matthias and the girls express that there is nothing inappropriate. Now the specific location is basically understood. Elk also reminded him that it was very dangerous there. But for Matthias, it was clearly unnecessary worry. Arrived and ambushed in front of a villa in the suburbs. Matthias activated the full map see-through cheat, sensing that there are many people guarding inside. Clearly, the news of the few people's arrival has been somewhat leaked. As for whether there is a mole, it's still unknown. But Matthias never panicked. So he took the girls and entered directly through the main gate, facing the overwhelming attacks. Luri used a barrier to block them without harm. Then it was Matthias's moment to show off. With a casual magic attack, provided everyone with free electrotherapy. Just as Elk thought there was someone on the second floor, Matthias indicated there was a reaction below. But how to explain when there are no other entrances around? At this moment, Matthias became a detective. Found the switch behind the painting in a few seconds. The Lord was leisurely enjoying himself in the basement, even petting a cat. He believed Matthias could never take down all his men so quickly. Even in the worst-case scenario, he could escape through the secret passage. But just as he finished speaking, Matthias then stepped forward. The other party still showed no sign of fear. Ordered the lurking minions to arrest them all at once. But on the contrary, Matthias alone outflanked them with one hand. The Lord, out of options, continued his tyranny, threatening that if he were captured, the city would face danger. Matthias didn't want to listen to nonsense. Snapped his fingers, making him fall into a coma. Picking up the unfinished letter from the stove. Not only did it contain information about the arrest, but also a hint of magic was felt. Therefore, the conclusion is that demon peaked before time, colluding with the Lord. Most likely for the labyrinth's dragon vein. If the power that bursts forth is used even a little, it could even destroy the world. Luri, with sharp ears, heard the commotion. Then the earthquake began. Houses shook violently. Matthias senses that demon is interfering with the dragon veins, and has attracted a large group of demons to attack Melchizedek. Without any nonsense, they immediately enter the maze, desperately trying to stop them. They must complete the task as soon as possible, within 2 hours before the demons arrive. After entering the maze, Matthias realizes that they have fallen into a trap in the morning. He notices something unusual about the walls. So Iris was asked to dig through the wall. In front of her appeared a smooth and shiny dragon vein, but from the residual magical aura left on it, it could be judged that there was a mechanism in place to improve efficiency. Matthias decided to go alone to defeat the final boss, and left the task of disarming the mechanism to prevent the dragon vein from exploding to the members in the rear. Matthias continued to advance, cutting through enemies as if slicing through vegetables, reminding Luri from time to time during the remote call. The task in her hands is of great importance. Demon is using communication magic, but Matthias is already close to him. Both sides are interfering with each other's information transmission, and Matthias also hears someone giving orders behind him. Matthias exerts his enchantment skills with all his might, ready to strike down. However, he is blocked by a barrier. Suddenly, an explosion blasts him several meters away. Demon is very confident in his odds of winning. He thinks it's impossible for him to break through instantly, with explosions as the means of attack. A barrier. The commander ordered Demon to swiftly end the battle. Matthias had Luri get ready. The 14th and the 17th magic circles. Demon sees the weakness of the disqualified pattern, and engaged in long-range combat with him. But Matthias has a high ability to dodge, and he wanted to understand more about the old demon manipulating everything behind the scenes. So Matthias spent time accompanying him. Despite the smoke and dust, Matthias was obviously not injured. Seeing that attacks had no effect, Demon planned to lure him into triggering traps. While Matthias was dodging, he was conveying instructions to Luri to activate the magic circle. All traps set by Demon failed due to interference. When the second magic circle was activated, the enemy's connection was also disrupted. A demon without command can only stand still and defend. This was all within Matthias's expectations. He then launched a continuous attack on the barrier, creating a hole big enough in it, because he analyzed that the barrier needed a half-second gap to take effect. As long as he seized this opportunity, and added one more strike before the attack ended, he could break through the controlled defense mechanism. Demon got in touch with the commander, and the demon behind knows well Matthias's strength in his past life. Believes he can't possibly be a reincarnated one. Therefore, he orders his minions to use their deadliest move to turn it fierce. to quickly dispose of Matthias. However, even though they have used their deadliest move, Matthias still single-handedly defeats the demon. By the way, just to add a bit of trivia, a disqualified imprint can use 4 or 5 types of magic at once. The demon in the labyrinth was successfully defeated. Luri completed the restoration of the dragon's vein. Demons outside the city disappeared one after another. The crisis was resolved. Matthias originally wanted to investigate the location of the old demon behind it. But the opponent was not easy to deal with either. No matter how he searched, he couldn't find the exact location. After Matthias dealt with the enemy, he prepared to continue pursuing their leader. For this purpose, he stored the magic power left behind at the communications facility in a magic stone. Then, he utilized a device created in his past life. You'll be able to find the location of the target. However, that device is located in the kingdom of Leginia. Now, they need to go and discuss with the principal first, because going abroad will be more convenient. After some time, they returned to the capital city. But the second academy before their eyes had undergone significant changes. Construction was going on everywhere. At this moment, the principal came out to welcome them. It turns out, in order to resist the demons, they were building a stronger fortress. As for the place of study, it has temporarily moved to the first academy. They used the pretext of studying magic to cheat some students into acting as free volunteers. In this way, the speed of construction is faster, and it doesn't require too much expenditure. Very economical. Then, Matthias informed the principal about his plan to go abroad. But first, he needs to obtain a permit from the king. During the period he hasn't obtained it. Since there's nothing to do, Matthias and the girls express their willingness to help. Matthias and the main wife offer advice and improvements in various aspects. For Iris, the only thing she could offer was her strength. But she was just reminded to be careful. And the next second, she tripped. The unfinished building was destroyed as a result. After obtaining the permit, they faced another problem. The place where the device is located is in a restricted access area, because magic disasters often occur there. The prerequisite to enter is to become an A-class adventurer. So now we need to go to the Regina Guild to level up. If it takes too much time, then we must also consider letting Iris turn back into a dragon to disrupt the order. Then the 3 of them sneak in during the chaos. As soon as they enter the guild, the administrator knows their identities. From the conversation, it was learned that the king had actually contacted the adventurers. The guild provides descriptions. In this way, tasks can be completed more smoothly. Next, it is necessary to complete a skip level test. Must battle with a training officer. As soon as these words were finished, a man exuding a strong aura pushed the door and entered. He is called Julius. He took the initiative to request to be the examiner for this test. Matthias sensed that his magical power was very strong. However, the fact that the runes did not appear proves that he is human. Under the introduction of the administrator, he is an S-rank adventurer. A battle maniac with a mind filled solely with thoughts of combat. And Julius had long heard of Matthias's fame. So his intention to fight Matthias was premeditated. Upon his appearance, he let 3 female students advance directly, because the only person he wanted to fight was Matthias. Before the exam even started, the administrator praised Julius first. No one has ever beaten Julius. From the past to the present, Matthias was told, "You can use any magic you want. But I know nothing about magic. So it's not intentional to go easy on you." The next second, his body automatically used reinforcement magic. Matthias also noticed his body changing. But judging from the reaction, he wasn't lying. After dodging the attack, I understand roughly enough on my own. Julius doesn't realize he's using magic. But his body has already treated magic as something passive. With just this, he can be considered exceptionally talented. If it were an ordinary person, it would be impossible. Fighting for a long time, Matthias's holding back is noticed by the opponent. Out of respect for his opponent, Matthias has to show a bit of his real skills. Julius takes on the attacks and grows stronger as the battle continues. Instantly repels Matthias. What happens next is beyond Matthias's imagination. Unexpectedly, after observing his own skills once, he is also able to instantly replicate them, and handles them with ease during operation. Julius uses the advantage of acceleration to slash down from high above and clash with him. The opponent breaks free from the smoke and bursts into loud laughter. Unfortunately for him, he is not the protagonist. This level of magical power is simply insignificant to Matthias. With a casual sword strike, Julius was instantly smashed into the interior. Though unwilling to admit defeat, he chose to concede. The 4 of them quickly obtained A-level qualifications in a short span of time. It's a pity to disregard someone as talented as Julius. Matthias gave him a textbook of his own making. As long as one diligently learns magical knowledge, sooner or later, one can become much stronger than they are now. However, for those who slip through the cracks of compulsory education, reading is akin to torture. Before parting, Julius reminded them that they would have to pass through the city of Fuchsia, which was quite terrible. Recently, there has always been news of adventure teams mysteriously disappearing on the passage, so they must be extra cautious in all things. Subsequently, the four of them arrived at the checkpoint, where soldiers handed each of them a pass. But actually, Matthias had already spotted the trick. There was a magical cipher on the pass, and this technique was identical to that used by demons. It excluded the possibility that the two soldiers they just met were demons. It's very likely that Fuchsia has already been dominated by the demon. At this time, it was discovered that someone on the hillside is handling the situation. The goal should be to eliminate Matthias and others before entering the city. Thus, the disappearance of those teams can be explained. In order not to cause a riot, Matthias decides not to act. Just making them all pass out will suffice. Proceed as planned. He releases two illusions at his original position. This should confuse the enemies. Let Lori and the others release sleeping fog from behind. Realizing they've been spotted, they simply ordered their subordinates to fire arrows. This attack really infuriated Iris. If that strike had truly been launched, the opponent would have been utterly annihilated. Lori and another hid in the shadows, unnoticed. Then released smoke using the magical tool given by Matthias. The enemy fell one after another upon smelling it. But the wind didn't take the girls' side, causing them to fall into slumber as well. Matthias snapped his fingers. Wake the two who fell into a coma. Using magic tools can cause backlash. It's really immature. Turning around, seeing that big, flowery face, Lori burst into laughter immediately. Of course, this art must come from Iris's hand. Then they arrived at the entrance of Verkia City. The girls sensed a faint demon aura inside, but it wasn't very obvious. There were at least over 30 of them. They explained that they use hidden magic. Those who act in teams are generally lesser demons. The city is very likely already under demon control. Entering from the front would be like walking into a trap. However, Matthias has just found a demon-specific passage. As long as the surrounding hidden magic is lifted, the entrance can be opened. Entering inside, it's found to be a sewer. Within minutes, they sensed the presence of a demon. Using detection magic, they saw a demon crouching at the corner. And Matthias tells the girls, next they must walk past him from the front. He uses magic to enter inside, quietly reaching out two hands behind demon, using disruption magic to make his thoughts dull. Even if you walk by openly in front of his eyes, he won't notice. Iris, who doesn't get the chance to doodle, is unhappy. Then the four of them successfully infiltrate the interior. The view of the entire city is exceptionally desolate. Everyone has an expression of a lost soul. Matthias catches someone to experiment on. From the forehead, you can see he has also been subjected to interference magic. Now there's no need to think, it's known that demon is behind this. Matthias follows them to a factory. This demon woman casts interference on the civilians' heads. In order to know what they are doing inside the factory, Matthias applies protective magic on every girl's head, so that once inside, they can be immune to sluggish thoughts. He also reminds Iris to pretend to be dazed. But it seems there was no need at all. Demon thought the restriction placed on her was too severe, to avoid reducing work efficiency later on. So he had the four of them skip the segment. After entering underground, they found the place was full of ores. Alma picked up a piece of blackish stone. Feeling puzzled about their purpose, Matthias explained that it was a high-grade material needed to make blue gold magic bombs. A ton of the purest crystals is enough to destroy an entire country. They now roughly understand Demon's plan. There might be a high-level demon specialized in magical technology behind this. The factory must be cleared as soon as possible. Otherwise, ordinary people will become stupid due to the influence of magic. They begin to explain the situation to everyone. There are a total of 32 known demons. They share perception, so once one is defeated, the others will know when the girls are helpless. Matthias proposed a brilliant plan. First, to break Iris's magical seal. Using her as bait, rush towards the zenith at the speed of light. Any demon could see it. Waiting until their whole army is deployed, then wipe them out one by one. Just as he was about to escape, Matthias instantly dragged him underground. Unknowingly, they had taken care of 8 demons. Luri and Alma formed a team. They added ordinary explosion magic to the magic stone according to instructions, creating the illusion of a trap, making the boss think that nearly all of his men were blown up, causing them to panic, failing to notice the presence of Matthias and his group. Demon also used detection skills to observe the reactions. Everything was within Matthias's expectation. He and the female members concealed their magic, unless something unexpected happens. Otherwise, the enemies won't know how they were wiped out. The plan is proceeding methodically. Matthias displays a friendly smile, which looks very gentle. The one-eyed leader of the remaining 10 demons notices something off, and immediately orders them to gather together, to not be ambushed anymore. It seems the plan has been revealed. Matthias has no choice but to surround them alone. The leader does not want to have a direct confrontation with Matthias and his group. He plans to use the magic crystal to create an explosion. If the enemy is too powerful, he will blow up half of the city. However, as soon as he finished speaking, one of his subordinates was slain, and standing in front of him was not Matthias, but another person. He realized that the battle had already begun. Ordinary demons were simply no match for Jiliuas. The boss could not tolerate his arrogance. He used dual blades to repel Jiliuas. Without reinforced magic, he was clearly at a disadvantage. He let all the demons surround Jiliuas. Suddenly, a scream was heard. The boss turned his head, only to find that 2 more of his minions had been wiped out. Now, only 4 demons were left. Matthias looked up to see a spear flying towards him. He quickly dodged, then struck it down and destroyed it in one fell swoop. Had he not dodged, that would become a personal vendetta between them. Jiliuas and the leader begin to engage in turn-based combat. But no matter what, Demon's defense is always impenetrable. Jiliuas tells Matthias not to intervene. They both initiate body strengthening at the same time, skipping over a great deal of mutual attacks. He demonstrates the counter-damage iron-cutting technique learned from textbook. Although it can inflict significant damage on Demon, it also causes harm to oneself. The battle lasted until dawn. Finally over. Damn it. Didn't manage to finish the final kill in time. He opened his eyes again. Matthias quickly reacted, protected the girls with his sword. He felt the magic in him was clearly different from before. The next moment, he emitted the voice of the previous boss, indicating that the time to unseal was near. He then released the magic control, turning it into dust. Without a doubt, next, there will be a fierce battle. Afterward, Jiliuas handed him the pass issued by his guild, and he decided to go back and continue training. After walking for a long time, they finally arrived at the super ancient ruins within the restricted area. After all, it was a building constructed by Matthias in his previous life. Arriving at the central area, there is a tetrahedron. Matthias tells them the device is inside it. He places his hand on it and channels magic. Then, as if recognizing success, the entire stone floats in the air. Upon seeing the entrance, the girls couldn't stop praising Matthias. Anyone with a bit of sense would know his inseparable connection to the ruins. Then the 4 of them jump directly from above into the bottom. Internal unique design. Matthias is ready to initiate the device. Taking advantage of this period, he orders them to search for the remaining usable items. Upon hearing about treasures and weapons, the 2 girls instantly became overjoyed. Matthias had just placed his hand on it for a few seconds. Luri immediately ran up with a sword. Seeing such a Chunibi-style design, it was a broken sword made for the sake of appearing cool. Apart from glowing when infused with magic, it's of no other use. One wave has not settled, another arises. Alma brought over a spear so heavy it's outrageous. Believing that Iris should be able to use it, Matthias explains that the weapon is very dangerous. If the infused magic loses control, the heat will run rampant, and then people nearby may all be vaporized. At this moment, Iris found something good. She discovered canned food from thousands of years ago, from a super ancient era. Seeing an outer appearance with preservation magic applied, decided to give it a try. After investigating the precision parts left by Vergia, found that all events were orchestrated by the same demon in the shadows. After taking out the magic stone sealed with faint magical power, as long as he relies on it, he can find the boss's location. The moment it is used, the coolness factor maxes out. All the screens in front display red alerts. Matthias knew he had to break the seal. And this strongest creature ever is called Zardias. Even if everyone attacks together, they simply can't defeat him. The only way out is for several people to use the immortality spell together. It might take a few hundred years of training before they could possibly defeat him. However, the downside is that during their training period, Zardias might eliminate all humans on the surface. Then, it would be even more troublesome to have to recreate civilization. Matthias remembered his past life, when he was a top-tier blacksmith. Then, he placed the components on the device. Use this to search for weapons with similar properties. As long as you find the cheat items scattered around the world, you won't be afraid of not being able to win. Finally, it was discovered that the weapon was in the treasury of the Kingdom of Ace at the beginning. Matthias and his 2 companions quickly returned on Iris. He handed over 2 magic-infused magic stones to them. In this way, they could accurately locate the weapon. At this time, the boss had already broken the seal. Feeling the immense magical power in an instant, Iris couldn't help but lose control, anticipating that the enemy would look for Matthias first thing. It's now urgent to act separately. The task of finding weapons is given to them both. Although the royal capital is protected by a barrier, it's completely insufficient against this demon. So Matthias and Iris stay behind to buy time. Fighting for time. The two descend from high above to the surroundings of the academy. But knowing full well the weapons are in the national treasury. Still, they choose to land on the periphery. A total waste of time. Because demons can all use spatial teleportation magic. Matthias decides to ambush from above, trying to seal the enemy in space. He knows the odds of winning are slim. As long as he can cause some damage. It's good. Two girls are still parkouring in the alley, chatting along the way, also saying they need to get the magic sword for Matthias as soon as possible. Then they jump onto the rooftops. The two suddenly came to a halt. Noticing the aura of magical power, they looked up at the sky again, not to mention causing damage to the demon. It's already fortunate if they don't lose any blood themselves. Since they can't deal any devastating damage, they can only rely on Iris, counting on her to unleash the strongest breath attack on the opponent. As long as it hits and causes damage, they probably won't act rashly. Demon rushed over in an instant, so he took all the damage head on. But seeing so much smoke, Matthias's strategy definitely failed. The boss didn't get hurt at all. Facing such a powerful opponent, Matthias was immediately out of options. The enemy pulled out a lightsaber from space. After killing Matthias, they then exterminated all of humanity. Seeing this, Matthias began to confront it head-on, looking at the light blade that was dodged. Realizing the target is Iris, he immediately raises his hand to apply multiple layers of protective barriers. Iris manages to evade just before it reaches her. The girl arrives at the treasury, here to take weapons but also encounters a bunch of idiots. The king comes to the rescue but insists on letting them give a few words of report. Matthias has taken several hits and is now poisoned. If the demonic sword can't be obtained right now, left with no choice but to sacrifice their own lives. The girls are still searching for weapons in the treasury. After dawdling for a few minutes, they finally find an impressively powerful magic sword in a chest. Matthias and Zardias are ablaze with urgency, focusing all their magic on defense and stalling for time. The enemy feels underestimated. He launches several beams of light into the sky that plummet down. Matthias is forced to intercept them with a barrier in the sky, while Zardias teleports behind him to continue their play. Actually, I had long guessed his purpose. The city is preparing things to deal with me. Although it's said that ordinary demons can't pass through the barrier. But don't forget there are corpses inside. Matthias finally remembered. There were two nobodies he had chopped off before. Luri encountered a time bomb while delivering the sword. That bald head was revived again with the magical power provided by Zardias. But after all, a nobody is a nobody. The tricks that worked before can still work now. It's a miracle too. The second pair of white-haired ones are a bit smarter. If they can't win, they resort to hostages for extortion. The duel above the skies turned into a defensive battle. Matthias must not only protect the city, but also protect Iris at the same time. Zardias gradually strays from his goal, not in a hurry to finish off Matthias. He wants to see how strong he is at full strength. He raises his sword to resist. If we truly can't wait for the magic sword, we'll have to use the remaining magic and life to cast the reincarnation spell. The plan is to kill an elderly Zardias in the next era. But this doesn't seem like a solution. There are just too many girls around him. Down below, with white hair, someone must get the weapon. The students should support in time. No more nonsense. Luri and Alma, you go first and beat him up badly. The rest is up to others to trap him. Matthias uses his life to transform into magic for a desperate move. Speed and strength are further enhanced. Won't die that easily. Originally had Iris go in front of Zardias to unleash a dragon's breath. Turns out, the opponent's ball is even bigger than his own. Iris immediately gets scared back into human form. Falls to the ground right where the girls are. Alma finds the right moment and immediately throws the magic sword to Matthias. As Matthias catches the magic sword, Zardias' intelligence suddenly kicks in, delivered a fatal blow directly from behind. The girls watch the scene in front of them with their eyes wide open. Just when everyone thought Matthias was going to die, the resurrection effect of the magic sword activated. A halo shimmered. Not only did he fully recover his health, but his body became stronger with the enhancement of the weapon. After a chaotic battle, Matthias, carrying his sword, flew over and defeated him instantly. Just before dying, Zardias left a warning. Even if this chaotic demon is vanquished, countless other chaotic demons follow. Eventually, one will defeat Matthias. After the weather clears, Luri, as usual, attempts a flying leap. But this time, a problem arises. Due to an accelerated heartbeat, his face flushes red as blood. The wound on his chest bleeds profusely. The principal led the students to rush over and meet with them. That white-haired demon has been completely annihilated. At this time, Matthias explained that this magic sword is for one-time use. Before returning, the remaining magic power must be completely used up. In the next segment of the King's Awards, aside from the title and the fief, he didn't want anything else. Thus, the magic sword was given to Matthias as one of the rewards. No repayment needed. At the end, they were able to go to the treasury to pick out some items. Iris's requests were as simple as ever. Anything edible would do. Afterwards, they chose freely in the treasury as if shopping in a supermarket. Iris rummaged through a box, and even managed to knock a bonus item off overhead. Matthias pulled it out for a look. He discovered it was a weapon he had made in a past life, crafted with diamond alloy. If there was still a complete set of bow, it could be used by Alma. After asking the administrator, due to the weapon being severely rusted and the material unknown, it was sold cheaply to the ISIS Corporation. Matthias and others immediately rushed to the scene, asked the store manager about the whereabouts of that weapon. The other party confirmed they had it, then showed them on the shelf the weapon that had melted into a block of metal. Modern people don't understand these things very well. This somewhat distressed Matthias, but he still had a way. He felt that as long as it was broken down, perhaps some rare metals could still be obtained. So he bought all the metals directly, because the dragon race likes to collect treasures. Iris put eating in second place. When Luri heard this, Alma immediately came over to remind him not to show favoritism. Seeing Luri blush shyly, he decided to buy another gem. So Matthias took another piece and returned to make a new gift. Next, as expected, there are some main quests to do. The principal rushed to take Matthias and the others back, ignoring that so-called captain of the knights. He went to the table to listen to the explanation. These are the puppets that attacked the border of the neighboring Cecil Empire. There are a total of 300 of them. After testing, their power source is human life. Everyone was greatly shocked. Could it be that in order to animate the puppets, humans must be killed? Matthias overturns the idea. Anyway, after saying a lot, the murderer is still demon. Matthias eventually takes on the task. So the life of hunting demons continues.